All right, was turning attention away from Nigeria now, but we're staying in Africa, where Algeria's parliament has unanimously passed a law declaring France's colonization of the North African state a crime and demanding an apology and reparations. The law also criminalizes the glorification of colonialism. Lawmakers wore scarves in the colors of the national flag and chanted "Long live Algeria" as they applauded the bill's passage through parliament. The vote signals the increasing strain in diplomatic relations between both nations. All right, let's bring in our guest. He is a global affairs analyst, Gbenga Onifade. He joins me from the UK. Good to have you join us, Gbenga.
Merry Christmas.
All right, so, I mean, I know you know the story already. Algeria's parliament unanimously passing a law declaring France's colonization of the country a crime. What do you make of this latest escalation in tension between both countries?
Well, so I think this is it's a shift from the economic relationship between Algeria and France, and it's actually defined from, if you look at historical reliance to strategic diversification and heightened diplomatical friction. What we need to understand is, I think it's more of a deeply political statement than real intention. I mean, the way I see, I think is more of a storm in a teacup, because yes, while it's legally binding in Algeria, you would not really get anything from France, and I do understand this the third time. We have to look at it in three different sectors. We do have the bilateral trade and dependency, which is actually shifted. We have the economic pivots and diversification with Algeria now more favoring Russia and China. And I think the last one, of course, is the sovereignty, which is this big elephant in the room. But I think the sovereignty narrative is more of a chat communication, while of course now declaring it as a crime. And yes, we do understand the French colony during that time, I think between 1830 all the way to 1962, which of course was ruled by lots of poverty, murder, death, and of course, looting, which Algeria is fighting back. But I don't think that's actually the real essence of what they're looking for. It's a shift, it's a diversionary tactic. But of course, something's got to be able to create.
And Benga, just to talk about that diversionary tactics, because we know that it started when France recognized the sovereignty of Western Sahara under Morocco. That's a territory that wants independence from Morocco. Morocco says it's its territory. Morocco has accused Algeria of backing the Western Sahara, as it calls them, rebels. And that also infuriated Algeria. So all of this sort of ties in together, doesn't it? And now that Algeria is demanding an apology and reparations, does this carry any enforceable international weight?
No, absolutely not. It's zero. I mean, like I said again, yes, while it's legally binding in Algeria, and this is the third time. Yes, it's got an overwhelming support at home in the parliament, but on the streets with everyday Algerians, it's not even a big deal to them. Yes, they do appreciate their sovereignty. And if you look back at it, I think the last election they had about 46% turnout, which is not bad. Recently, we had a prime minister which has been removed from Algeria. So there's been a little bit of tension and, of course, an uprising with the standard of living as well with people. Again, France is actually putting pressure on Algeria with migration. We're talking about borders, sovereignty, and people, incursion into Europe, which is actually a broad African statement. And, you do need the government to create something which is just going to take the mind away and then bring something else back home. But unfortunately, it doesn't really hold much weight. Yes, of course, they do demand an apology, which we do have unrelated again, but we do have African countries. But also, what they stress is, where do you want to start from? We're talking about the Ottoman Empire. It's always been, will Britain demand apology from the days of the Ottoman Empire, and of course we're talking about the Roman Empire. It actually goes way deeper than the modern history that we are looking at. So it doesn't hold any weight at all. I don't think they're going to get that apology. And of course, we do expect this incursion to happen all over again at some point.
And shortly we'll get to the call for reparations, not just by Algeria, but even other countries around the world. But I wanted to stay on the strained diplomatic relations between France and its former colonies, because we're seeing, that increasing tension between France and its former colonies. What would be the political impact for France as we continue? Most of them continue to say, look, we do not want relations with you as it used to be. People will always say it was more like a master former colony or servant relationship.
Oh, I mean, I think it's a big deal to France because France, well, nobody wants to lose an important partner when it comes to relationship. They've always had bilateral deal agreements despite the horror past, which has been going on for years. But now if you look at a few things now, I think we're talking about 7 billion euros, which is going away from France, and we do have about 500 French companies which are present in Algeria, employing about 50,000 or creating 50,000 jobs. France wants that to stay, and of course they want it to expand. But I think recent contracts, we're talking about the grain contracts, the rentier economy, for example, the hydrocarbon economy, which Algeria has a huge presence. This is now going more towards Russia and China. They are getting more of this contract, and so either way you look at it, France is losing weight. They don't want that to happen. So yes, like you said, it's a big deal. And we're talking about economic disparity as at 2025 again. So yes, while there's been a huge wealth gap in France, of course, a bit bigger in Algeria, but the more it goes, or the more it shifts, I think Algeria believe that, they will get a better deal with Russia, with China, just as it is with with the likes of some countries in the West African nations. So they thought, let's try someone new. Let's create a new narrative. Let's see how it goes. We've been dealing with this. This is all we know. But let's try something else for the time being, and we'll see how that's probably going to be a better way. But again, they need a reason for them. They need a why, and probably this is the why that they've got at the moment.
And I have just about a minute left, and I wanted to ask you, because this is also coming at a time of growing pressure on Western powers to sort of offer reparations for slavery and colonialism, and then to also return looted artifacts still kept in the museums. Could this also escalate to former colonies as Algeria is now saying, look, we want apology and reparations from France?
I think some countries are playing the good guy game, if that makes sense. With generally, if we look at them, if you look at sizable generally, I think economic partnerships probably less than 1% across the board. I don't see Nigeria requesting for that. Yes, there's always been a huge murmur going on the ground. They're not going to get it. It's all been acknowledged. So whether it goes on and it echoes loudly with other countries or not, they're not going to get it. Yes, the citizens are asking for it. I don't see personally Nigeria, which has the biggest voice in Africa, I don't particularly see Nigeria asking for it. Ghana has been, of course, asking. Nigeria hasn't formally requested for it, but of course they are requesting for artifacts to be returned. While some have been returned on the ground, while I think we do have certain countries like Germany who actually do decide, we want to do a clear out of everything. But certain countries, I think their museum will probably just going to be empty, and they rather say, we're going to turn a deaf ears. We're going to turn deaf ears to this. We would acknowledge it, but in terms of apology, you're not going to get it. I mean, where do we start from? And in terms of how do you quantify how much has got to be paid? So nobody can really quantify this. It could break economies. So they decide to just draw a line. Let's move on. It's the 21st century.
Maybe at best an apology, but we'll continue to see how that plays out. I know the UK did apologize to one of the Caribbean countries recently. We'll see how the plays continue to play out. Thank you so much for your time, as always, Global Affairs Analyst Gbenga Onifade. A Merry Christmas to you, by the way.
Merry Christmas. Thank you.
I will take a